Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is to install a brand new package. This is going to be the .env package. Now this particular package, it's a zero dependency module that loads environment variables from a .env file into process.env, which is going to be really handy for us. So once we've got that installed, we're going to go back to our server.js file, and we're going to require the .env package. Okay, and once you've got that line set up, we're going to create a brand new .env file. And then inside that .env file is where you're going to store some of your sensitive keys and information. So for instance, you can also do things like manipulate the node environment. We're going to set that to development. Go back to server.js. Now we should be able to do a console log process.env. Now we're going to type in the specific variable that we just put in our .env file, which is NodeJS. So we should see that print out here if we go back and rerun the project now. So I'm just going to do an npm run dev. And there you go. You see it. We get development. So that's exactly what we're looking for. And it matches what we have there in our .env file. Perfect. Okay, we're also going to add that to our git ignore file so that we're not pushing that file to git. We don't want that being public. We're also going to... Okay, so here's where we're going to start setting up some of our MongoDB database information. But first, we need the database URI. So this is where we're going to go and set up an account with MongoDB. If you haven't done that already, just go and create a free account. You don't need any of the paid tiers. We're just going to be using their free database implementations for this project. So go ahead, sign up, and the first thing you're going to see is a screen like this. You can create a new cluster, shared. We're going to go with all the basic settings, leave it with AWS. You can pick a location that's closest to you. I would try to pick something that's physically close to where you're living. It's going to keep the latency down, and then just leave all the rest of the settings as standard. You see they have different tiers of paying if you want to go with a paid version, but we're just going to create the cluster. Okay, you see here I already have a cluster prepared for us. So now you're going to go back to your main screen, click on collections. And so here you're going to create a database. Type in our database name. And you can give a collection name as well. So we're going to create a default collection, users. Our first collection called users. And you can leave all of these blank. You're going to click create. And that's perfect. So you can see now we have basically a table, which is same thing as a collection in MongoDB. So we've got our database, we've got our table. Now we just need to set up access to that particular database and table. So we're going to create a new database user. We're going to password authenticate. Okay, so you can just type in whatever you want here for your username. I try to typically name the username for the database that it's going to be accessing. So the username should always include some reference to the database. We're just going to auto-generate a secure password here, and you want to copy that and write that down somewhere. Write both of these down. You're going to need these in the future. So it's just a good idea to probably have that on paper somewhere, or in a text file or a Google Docs file, or, preferably somewhere safe for future reference. So there we go. We've copied that. Copied our password. We've got our name. We're good to go. Add user. Perfect. Looks like we're all set up. We can go back in. You can just double check. Everything here looks good. Okay, so this is what we're looking for here. What you're going to do is you're just going to copy this string here, copy this entire bit. This is going to give you the connection string, and that's really what we're looking for. So once you got that copied, we're going to go back over to our program. We're going to go to the env file that we just created, and we're going to paste in that URI that we just copied from MongoDB. So you see there, if you look at the URI file, it's actually got username and it's got password. We need to fill that in with our actual username and our actual password. So you're going to need those that information, and you should have that because we copied that. So hopefully you copied that information in the first step and you've got it ready to go. So you can just basically paste that right in. Okay, so at the end here, we also need to add our database name. So right after the slash, you're going to type in your database name. Now here you're going to paste in the password that we used for the user, which we created. Okay, and then we're also going to paste in the username. Again, for the user that we created when we set up our database and our collection. Okay, so now we're going to install another package, and this is Mongoose. This is what we're going to use to connect our program to the MongoDB database instance that we just created in the cloud. So we'll just let the program finish installing. Just take a sec here. Okay. Okay, so you can see we've got Mongoose in our package.json file. Means we have it installed. Okay, so now that we've got Mongoose installed, we can create a new folder. This is going to be a models folder in the main backend subdirectory, and then you can create a user.js file within that. Now we start on the first line here. We want to define a new const called Mongoose, and it's going to require Mongoose, which is the package that we just installed. Then we're going to make another line, const user schema. Sorry, I kind of say schema, but it's schema. And that's going to be equal to new mongoose.schema. And so this is where we're going to start to define the shape of our user information. What do we want to store in the database? So the first thing we're going to need is a username. And the username is going to be of type string. And here we can set if it's required or not. So every time you create a new entry in a database, is this particular field required? And in this case, we want that to be true. You don't want to be able to create a user without a username. And then we're going to create another field within our schema object, and that's going to be for the password. And that's going to be of type string as well. It's also going to be required. Okay, now we're going to create a new field, and that's going to be the role. And this one's going to be similar to the last two, except this time it's going to be an array. And we're going to actually set a default value, and that's going to be employee. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. They copy that, and we're going to make one more field entry here, and that's going to be for active. So this is going to tell you whether the user is active or not, whether their account is. And we're going to set the type to Boolean, and default is true. New users are active by default, so that's why we're doing that. Okay, looks good. Okay. And then at the very end here, we're going to do a module.exports equals mongoose.model user, comma, user schema. Okay, that's all set up. We can actually copy this. We're going to make another file in here now. And we're going to call that notes.js. Sorry, note.js. And here's where we're going to store all the information, about our notes. Now it's going to be similar to the user schema we just created, but we can go through and we can just update this. Okay, so let's start at the top here. This is going to be note schema. We can change this to note. Okay, back up to the top. This is going to be user. And here we're actually going to do a reference to the original user ID, which is stored in the user table. So we can do that by using mongoose.schema.types object ID. And then down here, adding a ref field, which is going to point to user. Okay, we don't have a password, so we're going to change that to title. And we're going to change role to text. And we're going to set required equal to true. We're going to delete the array brackets there. This is not going to be an array of values. And the very last one, we're going to change that from active to completed, and it's going to be a Boolean value, but the default is going to be false in this case. Perfect. Looks good. I think our note schema is looking pretty good. A little bit of formatting. Personal preference. Now, we're going to add a timestamp field here. So, and you see at the end, we just added that timestamps field, and we're going to set the default value to true. Okay, so back to our package.json. We're going to get out of the program. We're going to install another npm package. This one is going to be mongoose-sequence. npmi mongoose-sequence. Correct this here. Oop. And it's exactly what you see on the screen here. I just want you to add this to the last line of your note.js file. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to come back to our config folder. And we're going to create a new file here. This is going to be dbcon.js. And this is where we're going to store all of our configuration settings. This is what is actually going to connect to our database. So this is where the magic is going to happen. First line, const mongoose equals require. We're going to require our mongoose package, which we've installed to do the connection to the database. Then we're going to make another line here, const connect db. That's going to be an async function. Standard arrow notation there. We're going to do a try catch block. We're going to do a try block here within our async function. Await mongoose dot, what's that? Connect. And we're going to pass in our process.env URI, database URI that we've already set up. So that right there, that line is going to make the connection to the database. And then we're going to catch any errors that happen here. Okay, so what do we want to do with that error? Let's console log the error for now. Now we're going to do a module export equals connect db. Okay, that looks good. And then we're going to come back to our server.js file. And we're going to bring that async function that we just created into our server.js file. So we're going to find new const. We're going to call that connectdb, and we're going to require the connectdb async function that we just set up, which is going to come from our config folder and our dbcon file. Okay, now we're also going to need to set up another constant, mongoose. We're going to require mongoose and another constant, which is going to bring in our logger. So this is this handy little tool that we set up earlier in the project. And that's in our middleware folder, logger. Oh. Hold on a second. We forgot that twice in here. We already have it. We don't need to. We've got logger. So let's just go ahead. We'll just get rid of that from there. And we'll put log events up here. Perfect. We can just get rid of that. One line. Keep it nice and clean. Much better. Okay. Continuing on here. Now we're going to connect to the database. We're going to instantiate our connectdb function, and we're going to come down to the bottom and put in our line here, mongoose.connection dot once in brackets open lowercase, set up another async arrow function here. It's not async, but it's an arrow function. And we're going to put our app.listen within this. So this way we can do a couple of things here. We're also going to console log we seem to have an error here. Hold on a second. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just missing comma. Whoop. Good. Okay, let's keep going here. So we'll throw our console log back in. And we're just going to have basic, just an error there. It's not really telling us anything, but we know we have a problem. We don't know what it is. Well, actually, we could be a little bit more specific. And we can say Once this is complete, connected to MongoDB. So this is upon success. Right. Yes, because we are connecting. So it's not an error there. Okay. Next line. mongoose.connection dot on error. And this is where we're going to display our error code. So we're going to define another little arrow function. We're going to console log the error. And we're also going to log that with our log events function that we imported before. So this is going to be handy. This is going to keep track of this in a text file that we can then go back and look at in the future. And so if we have any errors, we can get a nice specific log of what's happening. So we've got the number, we've got the code, we've got syscall. We can add in the host name. And there's some other fields you could put in here. Feel free to explore. See what's available. See what you would like to see in your error log. And then add those specific fields. Perfect. So that looks good.